One of the drivers only spoke Chinese and the other driver was deaf. Well, now it's, you can't really get out of a speeding ticket anymore, a ticket in general. We use what's called the e-ticketing system, and that's electronic generated tickets that come from the mobile data terminals in the patrol cars or from a handheld device. And once the information is entered into that, then it's electronically recorded. So you can't really get out of it unless you either go to court, pay the fine, or you set up a court date. And then hard copy tickets are all numbered, and accountability through municipal court. The officer has to maintain a record of that ticket. So if they void a ticket out, it still has to be turned in to municipal court. So the accountability process is a lot more difficult. So you really can't get out of a ticket per se anymore without going through some type of process. Well, that varies. We have what's called 12 primary territories. So the primary territories are the standard uniform positions that have to be filled every single shift. But there's always more officers than that on because we have a motorcycle unit, bicycle unit. We have detectives on all the time, all three shifts. So it varies. There's no set number per se, other than there is a mandatory field operation territories that have to be filled. Favorite snacks when on shift are probably the crunchy Cheetos, my favorite. Well, the best way school zones can be protected is with the flashing school light. That draws people's attention to the school zone, gets them to slow down, and maybe wakes them up. The problem we run into is like when you have long school zones like out on Burlingame, flashing lights are about a half a mile apart. And so you have all the side streets and people come on there and get onto the main Burlingame in the school zone times and they forget about it or whatever because they don't see that flashing light because they pulled into it in between. And then we have a list of school zones, and there's a lot of them throughout the city of Topeka, and we try to monitor them the best we can, and we get to every one of them several times a year. Some of them get more attention than others because of the amount of traffic. But the flashing school light, the yellow light to get everybody's attention is the best way to protect them. Now that's an interesting question, and it does pose a dilemma because not many of our officers are certified in sign language. So a lot of times it's the standard note paper and pen that is the best way to communicate with those individuals. Years ago when I was a traffic officer, a young traffic officer, I worked an accident at 29th and Burlingame, and it was actually kind of an interesting accident to work because one of the drivers only spoke Chinese and the other driver was deaf. So it really imposed an interesting scenario. I had to get somebody there that could speak Chinese, and then the individual that couldn't hear, I used note paper and pen, but it was an interesting accident to try to work. Well, they can go to the city website, and there's what's called UPOC codes. So those would be traffic ordinances, liquor ordinances, any type of laws that pertain to the city. Those are called UPOC, and they're on the city website. And then there's also the Kansas State Annotated, which are ones that would be state laws. And so all those are online. You can go to, all you have to do is Google KSAs for the state of Kansas, Kansas State Statute Annotated, and it'll bring up every law that there is for the state of Kansas. And then go to the city websites and get the UPOC. And every city, for the most part, metropolitan area, has their UPOCs on the website somewhere, their website somewhere. Best theft deterrent is if you have an alarm system. Of course, that's the primary one. And then keeping your doors and windows locked, especially when you're not at home. But, one of the things that people don't do, like in the summer when they're outside doing yard work, they may leave their garage door open and they're in the backyard working, and so that really is inviting to individuals that want to burglarize your house. The garage door's open, you're in the backyard, they see you back there, so a lot of times the interior garage door to your house is unlocked. And so just kind of be mindful of those type of things. If you know you're going to be in the backyard for a long time, go ahead and shut that garage door. And then also have good communication with your neighbors and know them and help each other look out for each other. So when you're not home and maybe they're home and they see something that's unusual, it's okay to call the police. It's okay to call 911 and say, hey, over at my neighbor's house, this is going on. They're not supposed to be there or whatever. But neighbors, looking out for neighbors. It's okay to call 911 to report something suspicious, and then just be mindful of keeping your doors and windows locked and stuff like that. And if you're going to leave windows open, if it's a a two-story house, leave the upstairs windows open because there's not ground level. But keep the ground level ones shut and locked if you're not home. Actually, there's a couple ways to do that. You could go online, and there's actually a area on our city website, the Topeka Police Department link, that you can pay a compliment to an officer. So you can get on there, and you may not know the officer's name, but like if she knows the case number from her accident, she puts that information in there and says, I'd like to give this officer a compliment. Worked my accident, here's the case number. Or you can just call the front desk, 368-9464, and say, hey, I would like to leave a message for an officer. I don't know his name, I don't know his supervisor, but I was involved in an accident 21st and Wanamaker on such date and time. We can find that information out and get that information to the officer. Handicap spaces, we don't have anybody that specifically monitors those. The handicap spaces, if somebody's parking in there and they shouldn't be, if you just call dispatch or call the police department, we'll send an officer out and they'll enforce it. Our motorcycle and bicycle units, they do a lot of that type of enforcement. Community officers as well, but like here on Wanamaker, where there's a lot of businesses that have handicap parking stalls, officers during routine patrol, if they see things like that, they'll take the enforcement action or whatever action is necessary. But it's kind of a all department type of enforcement. There's nobody that specifically does it, but everybody does it. I guess one of the funniest ones would be is when I was working the DUI enforcement years ago, and individual was speeding going over the Topeka Bridge into North Topeka, and so I turned around on him, and we weren't going very fast, but he didn't stop, and we were driving through the neighborhood, and finally he pulls into a driveway, and when I got up to his car, he was eating his Big Mac, and he said, hey, I just didn't want my food to go to waste, and I didn't want you to tow my car before I go to jail.